Hello everybody and welcome to a new video on X4. Today I'm going to be talking about game start. A couple of people have been asking questions on you're saying new to the game, where do you start getting into the game? Now this is going to be based off you having all of the DLC or the core game. So first of all, let's talk about the core game. So I'm going to not actually click on these because when I do, they'll start talking over the top of me. Well, basically the core game will give you the tutorials and the foundations. That's why it's X4 Foundations. So you get the 5 start missions. And we'll talk about them now, and then we'll talk about the 3 DLCs and the special. So first of all, the tutorials. Personally, I haven't used the tutorials because obviously when the tutorials were released, I was already pretty much well into the game, very well established, and obviously could fly. They are pretty useful, but they won't go into too much detail about like advanced setting stuff. Obviously, you got the advanced gameplay, which will help you a little bit. But in terms of flying and stuff like that, it gives you the basics so you can get going. They are really good, so you should definitely check them out if you wish. They are far better than they used to be in terms of actually getting any sort of guide within the game. However, what I will suggest is if you want to get really into the detail on what to do, check out guides. Obviously, you're watching my own guide here. But there are many, many other people who have played this game over the same amount of hours as me, you know, who will give you what they feel is the best way on doing things. And having multiple opinions really helps because this game has a lot of ways of playing. You don't just have a linear style of playing for this game. So definitely check out multiple people and see what they have to say as well. Personally, I will give a little shout out to Captain Collins. Make sure you check him out. He does do regular streams and content on X4, so another person to see from a different perspective is certainly Captain Collins. Make sure you give him a check out as well. I will leave his link in the description below, so if you do want to check out his content, you can do that. But without further ado, let's talk about the foundation starts. Right, so you've got Young Gun, an unworthy entrepreneur, a dedicated warrior, an untested explorer, and an accomplished scientist. Basically, Young Gun is somebody where you just get thrown out and do whatever you want. It's a brilliant start. You are neutral with the most factions with this one. You are technically an Argon, so it was post-gate shutdown, but pre-reopening of the new sectors. It's probably the best start in terms of drop and go. It will put you into a gameplay where you will have no specific linear task. You can do whatever you want. You can go to whatever sectors you want, whatever factions you want, and begin the stories. You will have a couple of enemy factions, but that's to be, understandable. You do normally get them. However, that's going to give you the chance to play whichever scenarios or story modes that you wish to play. Then we come to things like the unworthy entrepreneur, the dedicated warrior, the untested explorer, and the accomplished scientists. These 4 basically start you off with a goal in mind. Entrepreneur is economy-based, warrior is combat-based, explorer is obviously explorer-based, and scientist is, as it says, scientist-based. So they all are streamlined in terms. So what does that mean? Well, basically, it's a start ship you get, and sometimes the credits as well, and sometimes you get a little bit of other extras as well. Let's have a look at these 4 in a little bit more detail. Now, I'm going to cut here and basically have it after the cut. There is a little cutscene for each one in terms of, like, they'll discuss certain bits, but we'll cut forward to that so you don't have to listen to that. Okay, so this is a Teladi race, so most of the factions will be based on your Teladi stuff. So if there's enemies of the Teladi, there will be less reputation against you for them, and obviously anybody who's allied with them will be higher reputation. You start in Hera's Twin, which is in the Teladi side of things. You get 2 start ships. You get a Kestrel Scout and a Vulture Transport. You get 200,000 credits, and you also get a station to start with. This isn't a good start because this is throwing you multiple things at once. You are Teladi based. You're in a location which is not anywhere near the center of the galaxy. You're having multiple ships to try and deal with, and a station to try and run. This will probably be a little bit difficult for people who are very new to the game to play. However, if you have played the game and you're kind of familiar, then it is a great start because you've got 2 ships and a station which pretty much does everything you need it to do to make money. So if you want a little bit of a boost, that's a good start. Let's have a look at the Dedicated Warrior. Okay, so the Dedicated Warrior is as is, more combat based. You are with the Paranid, who are currently in a civil war. So that obviously bases more around that side of things. You get a combat fighter. You get very low cash and no property. So again, it puts you in the pilot seat and you're going to have to do a lot of fighting. A very hard start, in my personal opinion. So if you're wanting to go into a more combat role and testing yourself out as an ace pilot, then definitely check that out. Let's check out Untested Explorer. So the Untested Explorer, as you can see, is another Argon start. And you have your location set to the Sacred Relic, which is not too bad. It is a little bit away. You have a Discover a Scout ship, so you don't have a combat vessel. And you actually work for the Alliance of the World's Explorers Guild. So your initial missions will start be based around, you know, discovering and doing the Explorers Guild missions as well, which is pretty cool. Again, no property and very low cash. So again, a little bit difficult to start with. This is probably more of your medium start mode, personally. Let's check out the Accomplished Scientist. Okay, so, as mentioned, the Accomplished Scientist. Now, this will lead you to have your headquarters already. So, you are Dr. Selenia Terran, an Argon female, and your location is Grand Exchange 1, which is where your headquarters is located, which is part of your property. You get a Nodum Fighter. You're accomplished, so you get 250,000 credits. Again, this is probably a fairly easy start if you want to skip the start missions to find your HQ. So the missions that I mentioned were you have to do a little scan and then do a very basic lineup to complete and get your HQ. That basically gives you all of it, so you don't have to do it. But it does concentrate on doing, obviously, scientific stuff for your Bolsata. Right, so that is probably another easy start as well. But again, you've got a lot of things to consider. You've got the headquarters, so all the headquarters stuff is just basically dropped on you. So personally, Young Gun is the best start and the most challenging and rewarding start. But the Accomplished Scientist gives you that step up, and I would presume if you've already done the Young Gun, that would be probably the next best start. But now let's talk about the 3 expansions. Personally, Split Vendetta starts are for accomplished pilots. They are a lot more combat orientated, a lot harder to start. There's a lot of enemies that are going to be against you. There's a lot of combat involved. There's a lot of defending of your ships, a lot of trying to build on the back foot already. So Split Vendetta, even though it's a brilliant DLC, is one of the harder starts. It also doesn't include very much of hand-holding to start off with as well. So there's no like leading into missions. You're just basically allowed to find your own devices in most terms. So that's definitely for somebody who is established in the game, not for a new player. Cradle of Humanity arguably was the better of all of these to bring in missions that streamlined you. So Project Genesis is actually included in both of these, but the Project Genesis leads you directly into the headquarters. And it's a little bit different as well. Plays very well, plays very nice. We did complete a campaign on that, which will show more detail. If you're interested, check out the Terran campaign. But yeah, if you've got Cradle of Humanity and you want to be a bit more hand-holding, but you don't want to start off with nothing and be left to your own devices, then one of these two are better starts. Terran Cadet concentrates a little bit more on the combat side of things, but not too much. A lot of combat missions and a lot of missions where you've got to be thinking about, like, the repercussions of combat. Project Genesis is more of a science side of things, so you're doing more sciencey work. Again, less combat, and definitely an easier start. And then we get Tides of Avarice. Tides of Avarice, again, includes a little bit more of that hand-holding that we've expected from Cradle of Humanity. However, they throw you into very different playstyles. So Smuggler's Paradise is one where you're basically working for them and trying to not get yourself robbed. More in terms of traders. So you want to trade stuff, you get a trade ship to start with. And you're just basically trying to stay out of trouble and making a little bit of money. Not long after that, you'll find yourself a pilot and be able to do the trades yourself. So again, it's like the Young Gun, but instead of having a combat vessel, you'll have a trading vessel. But it's not like the entrepreneur or the scientist where you basically get lots of credits. You get very little credits to start off with that. Stranded so far is by far my most favorite. Yeah, it's by far my favorite start. It introduces you to a little bit of roleplay side of things. So, there's a little bit more lore, there's a little bit more discussion, there's a little bit of flying around, and a little bit of combat, and also introduces you to hacking and stealing blueprints and stuff like that. So a little bit more of the gameplay that we haven't concentrated on, which, something that you wouldn't normally do, but it brings it very early into the game, which is really fun. But it does require credits, quite a lot of credits, so you're going to need to start thinking about running your own empire sooner rather than later, or making money, so maybe doing some easy missions and stuff. A little bit harder to start with, and it's going to talk. So we couldn't avoid all the conversation there, but basically you have no credits, you get a fighter once you do a little bit of a start mission, and you have no property as well. But you are pretty much central to the galaxy, which is a good start. So definitely something to consider starting with. Personally, after all of that, I consider one of three things, sorry. I'd start with the Young Gun if you want to get yourself thrown in at the deep end and want to learn at your own pace. You're not required to do missions. There's no timers on them. There's only timers on secondary missions. You can decide who you want to work for or what faction you want to build, rep for. It's far easier to start with. If you want a little bit of hand-holding and moving into storyline straight off the bat, then choose one of the Cradle of Humanity starts or the Tides of Avarice starts, personally. But obviously, if you don't have the DLCs, then the Young Gun is definitely the best start, personally. What I will suggest is if you've played the game already and you've done a little bit of work, you can do custom editors. You've got budgeted and creative. Budgeted allows you to do your own game start with a little adjustment, so you can adjust reputation and stuff like that. The more you play the game, the more budget you'll get. But it's also not modded. So it means that everything you do is perfect game start, doesn't count as an edited game or anything like that. Creative, on the other hand, is different. It says here, please be aware that starting a modified game or loading a modified save will disable all online functionality. At the present, we don't have online functionality, but we are expected to see it at some stage. So if you're not bothered about doing any online and you want to get yourself into doing lots of things and getting used to the game in your own pace and you want to start off with lots of stuff, then do creative. The final thing is Station Designer. If you're struggling to build stations, then go to the Station Designer and it will help you in a simulated atmosphere without spending all your credits in building them. Hopefully that's cleared up how to start the game. It's not as easy as most people think. There are certain things on all of these starts that do make things a little bit easier or harder. I know a lot of people talking about the combat side of things and also the faction side of things. Realistically, the map has combat. This game has combat. It's designed to have pirates in it. So if you want to avoid that, then try and stick to heavily populated areas with friendly factions. That's my best suggestion for you. One thing I will say, thank you for going through this video if you have done already, and if you get to this point, then I will give you a little bit more information as well. Someone asked me what ships to look for to begin with. In all of my videos, I tend to try and follow a simple path. Start off with your basics, then work to mining, then work to trading. If you start off with your basics first, you get used to the game, you get used to flying and stuff like that. Then if you decide to go to trading first, you will not have much money to begin with. You are buying things to sell things. You aren't necessarily going to get profit. You can make a loss and you can run out of money. Start with mining first because mining will always give you profit. If your ship stays alive and profits every time, you're always going to build up your cash flow, which then you move into trading, where you can then make some big profits by doing some of the trading that is a little bit more expensive, which you can't initially start to do with. So personally, your first ships you want to be looking at is getting a miner. If you're getting harassment from pirates, then move to getting a combat vessel to defend your miner. Then move to trading, and then again the same. If you're struggling with piracy and stuff like that, then hold off getting the trading ship until you can buy yourself a fighter to go along with it as well. You will lose ships, unfortunately. The aim of this is to basically make more money than what you're paying out for each ship. So once you make 1 million credits for each basic ship, you're making 4 or 5 times the cost, so you can then build up. Obviously, remember to upgrade your older ships as well, so they can take more of a beating and can survive. Some mining ships can take a hell of a beating, so just bear that in mind. I hope this has helped you to get through to starting the game. I know some people have had the question a few times, so I do apologise that it wasn't one of the first videos that I did. But obviously, a lot of people are eager to get into the game, so I wanted to offer, a bit of assistance in getting started. So that is that for this video. Thank you very much for joining me for this video. If you've got any more questions or comments, then please leave them in the comment section below. If you are still struggling, then remember we do have a Discord where people can help you out. There are people who've played this game for a long time in there as well, so they can always answer your questions as well. But until next time, everybody, take care for now, and I shall see you all on the next one. Bye-bye for now.